Good day, Grade 12 learners, and welcome to today's English First Additional Language lesson. My name is Elizabeth Meyer, and this is my beautiful assistant, Mandisa Ndaba. And this lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saibona Discovery Centre. Welcome.
Good day, Grade 12s. Today's lesson objectives looks as follows. By the end of this session, you should know the structure of English First Additional Language Paper 1 examination. You must respond confidently to Section A, which is our comprehension paper. Summarize the text using the keep and delete method, which is in question 2, our Section B. Apply the ADA principle when analyzing an advertisement. Interpret a cartoon and identify the humor that is in the said cartoon. You need to understand key language structures as well as finish writing paper 1 within 2 hours of the exam duration.
So, I'm sure you know this, but just to remind you, your paper consists out of 3 sections. Section A is your comprehension for 30 marks. Section B is your summary, 10 marks. And then you've got Section C, language. This is a big one, counts 40 marks, but it's divided into 3 questions. So you'll have questions on advertisement, you'll have questions on cartoons, and of course language. And once again, as Mandisa said, 2 hours. So where's the biggest tip I can give you? Don't start with your comprehension first. Start with your summary first and get that out of the way. Remember, the answers are already there. It's easy.
And the easier, the better. So if you start with the easy one, chances are you will end it off on a very good note. So remember that 2 hours needs to be used profitably. Now, let's see what knowledge you have of English First Additional Language. Now that we've given you your objectives of the lesson, you have the pre-knowledge. Can we do this activity briefly for just 2 minutes? Please, 2 minutes, Grade 12s. Then we'll come back to discuss the answers. Now you're done with your baseline. Let's see how well you did.
Okay, have that red pen ready. Let's go. So your first one was writing specific words exactly as they appear in one line. That's how you quote. Now you'll see in your comprehension, sometimes you will be asked to quote, and other times you're not allowed to. Number 2, you're only allowed 70 words to write your summary. And yes, you have to count. And I'm sure you know the AIDA principle: attention, interest, desire, and action. And visual uses pictures. We're going to talk a lot about them, especially advertisement and the cartoon. And then you had a quick language question. And the one we wanted for your tag is, of course, number A, is she. And there's a nice wink for you. I'm sure you got all perfectly right.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. Now we move to comprehension. Now, grade 12s, as you have noted in the previous week, we looked at answering a comprehension comprehensively. So what we will do this time around, we'll just do a brief summary of some of the things that you need to take into account when you respond to a comprehension text in your examination. First things first, you need to understand the title. I believe you still remember some of the key ideas that we pointed out to you. Secondly, you must adhere to instructions. Remember the instruction that says, refer to paragraph 1, use your own words, state 2 points. These are very important words that you need to take into consideration, and you should apply them. Utilize question words. Remember, we highlighted, underlined, noted all the question words. You need to be able to do that. Consider mark allocation for the length of your response. If it's 1 mark, you're expected to just give enough for 1. If it's 2 marks, you're expected to give enough for 2 marks. If it's 3, you're expected to give enough for 3. But I wonder if you've seen 3 marks in your exam. The key thing is make sure that you pay attention to the mark allocation. Combination answers are permitted. Remember, with open-ended questions, you can say yes, no, or you can combine both yes and no. But you only get an award if your response is well substantiated. Paraphrase where the instruction says use your own words. You will see the difference on how we paraphrase between a summary as well as a comprehension. In the case of comprehension, make sure that you paraphrase your answers by using your own words as far as possible. Then remember, text A and text B are unrelated. You may have seen the example last week. It may have been similar, but that's probably because it's from 2 different question papers. But in one exam, there is absolutely no relation between text A and text B. Finally, grade 12s, use the peel method to respond to open-ended questions. We've highlighted that briefly, and I think that if we master this, then we definitely are going to get that 30 marks, which counts for a lot of marks if you think about it. I'm sure you agree with me, Lise.
Absolutely. So please remember those 10 minutes reading time that are given to you. Please use it fruitfully. Make sure you read your comprehension. Mandisa has highlighted everything you have to do. So take your time and make sure you understand your text before you start attempting those questions.
100%.
So on the 18th of August, you guys discussed text B and you were given a homework. And I'm sure you can remember this little picture of team spirit and self-confidence and soft skills and empathy and all of that. And you were given a number of questions that you had to answer for homework. So I think it'd be a good idea to move over to the homework to see how well you did. So let me remind you quickly, if you go back one for me again, let's quickly remind you of those questions. So this is a kind of question that they can ask you. Explain how visual 1 conveys the idea of team spirit. Or 1.2, this is where you had to identify the illustrations that suggest self-confidence and creativity. And 1.3, yes, that's your open-ended question. And this is where you had to discuss whether the visual is effective. Now remember, your section A, text B, is only 6 marks. So let's see how they did.
Let's see.
Right, so 1.1.1, or 1.11, thank you. You'll see we've given you 3 options here. So I need you to have your red pen in your hand and just quickly check which one you got right. Now remember, when you're answering this text and when you're referring to a visual, always pretend the person marking can't see what you see. So if you look there, on your answer sheet, you'll see we wanted 3 individuals standing together, holding a board, or we wanted 3 individuals smiling, showing they're working happily together, or we wanted the one about the banner, about the team spirit. Can you see? You have to focus on the detail. Right. 1.12.
1.12, on the other hand, these are the possible responses that you could have had. 1, a thumbs up sign, which is visual too. And that is the only option that we have for that kind of answer. And then for 1.12.2, we've got a light bulb. You probably saw that lighting up, which is our visual 4 rather. And then the last question that was part of the homework is question 1.13. Now, this is an open-ended question, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, you can either agree or disagree. Better yet, you can have a combination answer. And these are the possible responses that you could have had. For people who said yes, perhaps the loud hailer or megaphone extended sound waves is a symbolic of a person speaking up or speaking his or her mind, who's also expressing his or her feelings without fear, which is a sign of being assertive. So you may not have this answer exactly, but the idea must be presented in your answer. And remember that when we respond to questions like this, we need to use the peel method. Make a point, give evidence, explain, and link back to the text. Once you have all of these, you can give yourself a total for the mark. I'm sure you have marked yourself, you've taken a picture of these, and you're ready for text B in your next examination. Now, we move to the next part, and I'll give it right back to you.
Thank you. So, as I said, when you start your question paper, please don't start with the comprehension first. Let me tell you why. Sometimes you get stuck on it, and it takes too long. And by the time you want to finish question 3, 4, and 5, well, there isn't just not enough time. So we suggest that you actually start with section B, the summary. It is the easiest part. Now, just to remind you again what a summary is. A summary is where you need to focus on the main ideas of a text, which means we have to throw away any repetitions or example or any detail that's unnecessary. It's really about getting the message across in the clearest, simplest way possible. Okay, can you tell us?
That is correct. And now we've got different purposes of a summary, grade 12s, as you can imagine. The purpose of summary writing in English file is to help learners develop important reading, comprehension, and writing skills to ensure that you can do all these 5 things that I'm going to read out to you. Firstly, to show understanding by identifying the main ideas and leaving out unnecessary information or unnecessary details. Liz has already mentioned that we are looking for mainly the main points, and whatever supporting evidence to it is unnecessary for a mark allocation, right? The next thing that you need to be able to do is to develop critical thinking. That is to say, decide on what information is important and what information is not important. Because when we look at the fact, the expectation is you would have given or provided the actual important detail of the summary. You need to improve language usage. And how do we improve our use of language? Is by using your own words and keeping your sentences short and to the point. So they must be concise. You make sure that you use your own words and you keep it concise. You don't take the sentences that appears in the text, but I will emphasize this again. The manner in which you use your own words in summary is slightly different to how you use it in comprehension. Here, you can use synonyms. You can change word order. For example, move from active to passive voice to active voice, just as long as you maintain the same idea or the main fact that is required of you. Now, it also enhances your exam skills. And you're probably wondering, how does it enhance your exam skills? I know that you are not just doing English as one of your subjects. You have many other subjects, and exams are coming, and you're a bit stressed out about how you're going to go about it. But let me tell you, if you master summary writing for English, you will be able to master summary for all the other subjects, to put together your notes and be able to answer them the best way you can.
I'm so glad you say that. Sometimes our learners forget how important this skill is. So it might be easy just to think it's just 10 marks, but actually we're teaching you so much more.
100%. This is a lifelong skill that you can use just beyond the classroom if you think about it. Finally, it helps them build communication skills, right? Summarizing mirrors real-life situations where one needs to give the short version of information clearly and accurately. So please remember all these aspects about summary. And as you approach this question, you have no reason to get below 10 marks because this is the skill that will help you beyond English lessons.
So let's quickly look at what your question looks like. Now, we've divided it into 2 parts, and usually it always looks the same. So you have a first part, we call it the scenario, just to give you a little bit of idea. So the first part is, they will give you a little bit of a background to tell you what the text is going to be about. It's almost like an introduction to the question. So on your screen, you will see we've highlighted it in green there for you. And then they will tell you, read text C, your summary is always text C, and list 7 benefits of something. For instance, in this case, using Vaseline petroleum jelly. So this is the one where we're focusing on. And then underneath it, you're going to see there's a list of instructions. Now, it's really important to remember that these instructions will never change. They're always the same. And underneath, you'll remember that at the end of your summary, and this is a clue I want you to remember, when you're done with your summary, use these instructions as a checklist. In other words, when you're done, go back and tick next to each one of these to make sure you've answered everything and you've done exactly as asked. So just to remind you again, top part scenario will change, so this might look different in your exam. Instructions
stay the same.
Exactly.
I hope you remember that. Now, we decided to look at different scenarios from 3 different past exams. And we've got one from June 2024, another one November 2021, as well as November 2023. I want you to look at the way in which the different scenarios have been presented to us. So what we have, the first sentence, for example, 2024 says, while some matriculants go straight to tertiary institutions after completing grade 12, others still want to take a break or a gap year to plan for their future. So we have given a story there. Then we move to the next line, which says, read text C below and list 7 points on how to plan a gap year. Notice that we've highlighted these key instructions because this is what you need to use to find the other facts in the text as you go about responding. We go to the next one, which is 2021. On the very same line, the instruction is similar in the sense that it says read text C. Remember, Lee said summary is always text C, so that is not going to change. So you read text C below and list 7 points, which is also unchanging. It stays exactly the same.
Nice.
But what changes is what comes after that. In this case, again, we've got our sentence that is phrased as a question, how to write a professional email. But I want you to notice what happens in the last example. It says, read text C below and list 7 benefits of using Vaseline petroleum jelly. Now, it's no longer a question. It's a statement that you must now look for the benefits. But what do you do in the examination? Your job is to make sure that you turn this into a question so that you're able to respond to it as you go about with the summary. In our case, a note here, it's pay attention to the words how to in the question because they guide you on how to write your summary. Now, the tip that we have, if the scenario instruction does not include a question word, you can add one for your instruction. Here's an example. Now, in this one, we are going to say, what are the benefits of using Vaseline petroleum jelly? And once you go to the text, now you're looking for responses to this particular question, which means that your 7 facts should be able to respond to this question that we have created.
I want you to actually take that question and write it in big, bold letters on your page so that you will look at it the whole time. So when we get to the summary and when we go through that, I will show you exactly how to use that question.
100%.
She's just shown you.
I agree with Liz.
All right, so we have summary instructions. So let me run quickly through them. I know you don't always read the instructions, but it's really absolutely important. And as I said, use it as a checklist at the end. Your summary must be in point form. In other words, number 1, point, number 2, point, number 3, point. No hearts, no crosses,
No bullets.
no bullets, nothing like that. We want it in point form. You have to list 7 sentences. So we're looking for 7 facts in full sentences. And a full sentence means it must be a verb. And you're limited no more than 70 words. Can you do less than 70 words? Yes, you're welcome. Be careful. If you use too few, you might disadvantage yourself. And yes, we do count. So make sure you count as well. Number your sentences from 1 to 7. Only 1 fact per sentence is allowed. Remember, we will mark only the first one and we will ignore the second one. So don't waste words. Keep it to 1 fact, 1 sentence. Use your own words as far as possible. Now, there are numerous ways for you to be able to do this, but you have to try to use your own words without changing the meaning. And then, when you're done, count your words and indicate the number of words you've used in the brackets after the summary. Okay, please remember, in full, you have to write in point form. In home language, you will be required to write in paragraph form. So don't get the two mixed up.
100% agree with you, Liz. And just on the total number of words, make sure that you write the exact number of words. Because if you write more than required, we've marked it long enough to know if it's more or not. So you count, and if it's 66, write 66. If it's 72, let it be 72. Don't write 72 words and then say it's 62. Now we are going to be looking at this past exam example of a summary writing, and we are going to use the keep and delete method to identify facts. And I'll give it back to you, Liz.
Okay, so remember, our topic was to list the 7 benefits of Vaseline petroleum jelly. So we've changed that instruction into a question, and that now is, what are the benefits of Vaseline petroleum jelly? So this is the one that you write big on top of your page to make sure you focus on it. Now, you have quite a big text, as you can see. Now, what I want you to do is take your pen in your hand, and every time we will read a sentence, and you have to decide, is this sentence answering my question? If it's not, delete. If it's right, we keep it. Okay, so can we go through it?
Let's go through it.
Let's go through it. So your first one says, Vaseline petroleum jelly, or Vaseline, has been around for more than 150 years. It is a true legend and has become popularly known as Vaseline in South Africa. Do you think this answers the question of the benefits of using petroleum jelly?
I don't think so.
Definitely not. So this one we will skip. Throw it out. We delete it. Next one. The soothing power of Vaseline has been passed down from generation to generation.
No.
Nope.
It doesn't answer the question.
It doesn't. So we'll delete it once again. It is time to get excited about skincare and embrace the healing power of petroleum jelly.
No benefits.
Still not.
So we delete.
Delete. And the affordable yet effective Vaseline is versatile. Not.
No.
Nope.
Doesn't answer the question.
Doesn't answer the question. Can you see? Don't feel scared when this happens. When we've done a whole paragraph and we still haven't found anything. That's fine. You have many more paragraphs to go. So let's go on to the next one. It says the hydrating power of Vaseline is a good remedy for dry skin. Is this one of the benefits?
Definitely a benefit.
Definitely a benefit. We're going to keep this one. So what I would suggest you do, either take your highlighter or your pen and underline it to know this one I'm keeping. This is a keeper. Let's try the next one. Applying to the body after a shower keeps the skin moisturized. Yes, it does explain the benefit, but I've just had it. In other words, this is an example of my previous sentence. Do I need to give an example? No. So I'm going to delete this one.
Deleted.
Thank you. Let's try the next one. For minor wounds such as cuts, scrapes, scratches, and burns, use Vaseline to keep the wound moist, as doing this will aid the healing process. Definitely. This is definitely
it. Correct.
Excellent. So we'll keep this one. The problem is, as you can see, it's quite long. So already in my mind, I'm thinking, we'll have to get rid of some of these words because I won't be able to use all of this. It's just too long. Okay, do you want to go to the next one? Right, so Vaseline is hypoallergenic. Therefore, it is suitable for sensitive skin, making it a good skin care option for babies to prevent nappy rash. Sure, there's a lot of information there, but I think we're going...
It is definitely a point.
Absolutely. So we'll have to use it. Again, we'll have to find the main idea there. Let's try the next one. Do not let mosquito bites and bee stings get the upper hand. That doesn't answer
the question.
Absolutely not. It
all.
doesn't. No. Put some Vaseline on the itchy spots for instant relief. We'll take that.
Sounds more like a response.
Absolutely. So we'll definitely use that one. We can combine it if you want to, but I will definitely take the next sentence. Rubbing a little Vaseline into the hair gives it instant shine and reduces the look of split ends. Oh, that's such good advice. Okay? I think we need to use this one definitely.
That's correct.
And the next one, removing chewing gum stuck in your hair is a nightmare.
No.
No.
No benefits there.
Doesn't tell me anything about what Vaseline's going to do. Coat the gum and surrounding hair with Vaseline and pull gently to remove the gum.
That sounds more like a benefit.
Absolutely. Now we know exactly what to do. So we'll keep that sentence. For teeth whitening, mix 2 tablespoons of baking soda with Vaseline and apply to dry teeth using a toothbrush. Oh, definitely, that's a good benefit.
Indeed.
And next one, do not let snails and ants ruin your garden. No, we're going to skip that one. We're going to delete that one. Apply a combination of Vaseline and salt on the edges of flower pots to keep them protected.
Definitely.
Well, we've got quite a number of facts here.
That is correct.
Do you want to show us what we've got?
Yes, definitely. So you will notice that as we were reading, we find the facts, supporting information, examples. Sometimes it seems like they're introducing a point, but we only get the fact on the next one. So you need to be aware of this as you respond to the summary question in your exam. And these are the possible responses that we have. And we've definitely tried to use our own words as far as possible. Firstly, the benefit is that it keeps the skin moisturized. The second one, it heals less serious wounds. It can be used to prevent nappy rash or sensitive skin. Remember, the question was, what are the benefits of using Vaseline petroleum jelly? It also promptly relieves itchiness on the body. Applying Vaseline to the hair makes it shiny. It hides split ends and it makes the removal of chewing gum from the hair less challenging. A mixture of Vaseline and baking soda can be used to whiten your teeth. And finally, applying a mixture of Vaseline and salt on the edges of flower pots will keep pests away. Now we've identified exactly 9 facts from the text, but remember the instruction asked you to only identify 7. So you're expected to only have 7 of these. You must have at least 7 from the 9 that we have. You're not expected to identify all 9 of them, just 7 is enough. And remember, grade 12s, the reason we are presenting the solutions in this format is so that you are cautioned against using the table. Table is used with codes and then using your own words on the side. You are not required to do that. And please don't do it. Because when you do that, it uses a lot of your exam time and you end up not finishing your exam at the stipulated time. What is important for you to note is using your own words in the sentences. You can leave quotes on the paper. There's absolutely no reason for you to do that. So this is the exact format that we all need to follow. And this is the format that is recognized. You agree, right?
Absolutely. I think the only thing we've missed here is to count our words. So that's one thing we haven't done here. So obviously we will have to go back and check how many words we've done so that we can write it in the brackets.
100%. But you will notice that it might be that, you will notice that the numbering of words might be slightly different in this case because we have 9 facts instead of 7. So it might be slightly more. In your case, if it's just 7 words, 70 words, it's for 7 facts, right?
Yeah, can I just say something about that as well? What I really think you need to do. So if this happens, you've got 9 facts. If you're not absolutely sure about a fact, rather throw it out. Especially if you've got 9, then you can choose the ones you really want to use.
I agree.
So make the ones that you choose, make sure they are absolutely correct.
That's correct.
So, and when we mark, obviously, we were looking for those 7 facts, and then the rest will be free marks for your language. And that's why it's so important to always make sure that you write in your own words without changing the meaning.
100%. And then you can get a full 10 marks. It's a given 10 marks.
And it's so easy to get it.
I agree. Now, a bit of recap on what we've covered for summary 1. We defined what summary is, and as well as some benefits over and above the English subject. We've identified different scenario and instructions. We've read each sentence and applied the keep and delete method. That is every single sentence of text C. We have listed 7 facts from 1 to 7 in our own words. We wrote the total number of words used. Remember, you must do it because you'll only have 7 facts, right? Proofread and edit your work. Finally, understand the mark distribution that is used. So these are some of the things that you should know by now based on the lesson that we have. And now we move to the next section.
This is my favorite section. This is advertisements. And I promise you, this is probably so easy as long as you follow our rules. Here we go. So advertisement is obviously there to promote a product, a service, an idea, or event. And I just want to stand still there for a moment. Don't always think it is a product. It might be a service, an idea, or an event. So before you jump into the questions, analyze your advertisement so that you can see exactly what it is all about. Now remember, advertisers will do anything to get you involved. So advertisements are there to inform you, to persuade you, or to influence you. So they want you to buy the product, or use the service, or attend an event. And then they want to get your attention. And that's what you need to focus on. What was the first thing that grabbed my attention? Okay, let's go. Let's show them.
Now, we've got a number of advertising techniques that we are going to go through. Now, when we think advertisement, we have what we call emotive language. And I'll give you an example of what an emotive language looks like.
This amazing cream will change your life.
Now, imagine if you saw that on an advert, you would definitely buy that. And what is the effect on the audience? This is to create strong feelings as well as excitement. Once you see that, you obviously want to run and buy that. And not just that, we also have what we call a slogan. And this is an example.
Just do it.
Easy to remember, sticks in people's mind, and we know that once you see just do it, it's the right brand for you or your favorite brand. And not only that, advertisement uses humor.
So you'll perhaps have a funny cartoon in a cell phone advertisement.
This makes advert entertaining as well as memorable. So once you see something funny on that, you always think about it. You think about whatever was funny on that advert, whatever that was put there, and it makes you want to buy it. As if that's not enough, Liz, we also have visuals.
This is really important. So be on the watch out for bright colors, happy faces, large logos, anything to grab your attention.
100%. And then persuasive questions.
Don't you deserve the best holiday?
This makes audience think and agree that indeed I deserve a holiday. I'm sure you all agree in those chairs that you deserve a break, Great House. And then we've got what we call special offers.
Buy one, get one free.
This encourages quick decision and buying. Once you see that, you run to the store. You don't even want to check your budgets. And then we've got repetition.
Buy now, buy now, buy now.
This reinforces message and makes it much more memorable for you. Then testimonials.
Trusted since 1991.
How many of us have bought products because they've existed for that long? Now, this builds trust through personal experience. If we know that it's been in existence for this long, it means I can definitely trust it. And then we've got endorsement.
This is where a celebrity is promoting a drink.
Definitely. And we know with all the influencers and celebrities, if they're endorsing the product, we run for it. What does it do? It attracts fans who trust the celebrity. So it attracts all the fans that trust that particular celebrity. Then we've got bandwagon appeal.
This is where they say everyone is switching to this network, and it gives idea.
Which makes people want to join the majority.
Exactly.
For appeal, that's the last technique we are going to be looking at.
Smoking kills. Quit today.
This creates worry and pushes people to act immediately. As you can see in the last visual that we have there, it says a warm welcome to death. And what would that be? It's a cigarette.
Absolutely. Right. And if you look at our beautiful advertisement there on the right-hand side, it says back to school. And I'm sure the first thing you noticed was those big bold letters. My eye went immediately to that 50% off. You know, a bargain is always a bargain.
100%. We always want to save a few bucks.
Exactly. And especially if you're going back to school, you know how expensive stationery is, and you have all these cute little pictures of stationery there, and it says they shop now, and that obviously is there to get you to do that
exactly
right now.
Immediately. Right now we've got a few examples for you to look at, and you'll have a field day just as we have a field day over here.
Right, so let's look at the first one on the left hand side. It says this delicious cure for your bad mood. Oh my goodness.
Delicious?
That was, I was wondering as well. I don't know if we've had the word delicious, but that brings us to another point. You know, in your advertisement, there will be 2 language marks that you'll have to answer. And in this case, this will be a brilliant language mark to ask you to rewrite it correctly. So be on the watch out for those language marks.
That is true. And then when we look again, you can see that there's what seems like a brain attached to a light bulb. And what would get you to work like that is if you get the Nescafe, which means Nescafe will recharge your mind or your brain. I'm sure a lot of you agree that once you have coffee, you feel alive, you feel brand new, you've got great ideas. So in this case, the Nescafe coffee will give you some great ideas.
So I like this one about the bread. I think it's so brilliantly done. So you'll see our little bread there is in the form of a couch, and it has butter sitting on it. And it says the king of breakfast, and note that exclamation mark. So this is just so cute. But obviously, who wouldn't want
butter on their bread?
Obviously. And then obviously this is a very special butter, isn't it? Yeah, I can see. I think there's a cow in it as
It
well.
looks like there's a cow on it.
Yeah, so
And you can have your bread with the butter and some coffee on the
Wow.
side. So all these are some of the examples of advertisement that they can use. But I want us to look at that one, which is likely my favorite one. Timeless classic. What does this mean? It means this brand has been in existence for a very long time. Remember some of the techniques we looked at? You can literally match some of them to every one of them. Timeless classic, which means this is a trusted brand. It's not just used by the 2000s, but it's been used by people who've lived beyond that age. As we can see this old man looking so cool in that Adidas outfit. Do you see that?
It looks like Einstein. And I mean, he was clever.
Could be.
He was clever. So obviously, when you make the right choice there,
You'll be as clever as he is.
Exactly. That is so clever. I like this one that says 93% felt their skin was brighter. This is obviously a nice way, ladies, to grab our attention. And statistics never lie. That's what they say. So obviously we will fall for this because we do think if 93% of people or women felt their skin brighter, then definitely why wouldn't I want to use it?
Exactly. So it means it works. If you have it, you'll be amongst the 93 or even 100.
Exactly.
Easily 100. And then we've got another one here. It says heavyweight, it's a knockout. And we see this man whose hand seems like earphones. And you think about it, what could it mean? Perhaps the heavyweight is the music in our ears. It's the way that we are ignoring to be social people and we just want to play our music and it's fighting us against interaction with other people. It can be interpreted in many different ways. What's important is you must look at what's happening on the picture, look at the words and find a link between the two.
Absolutely. Exactly like the last one we have there. And it looks like a snake, or it's in a form for a snake, really cleverly done. And says, don't let the bull scare you. And can you see those big letters for scare you? And obviously you, they say you, that includes you and me as well. So very cleverly done. There's a great connection between the visual and the words.
Good. Now, grade 12s, we are going to be looking at how to apply the ADA principle. Now that you know what you know about advertisement, let us look at the ADA principle, which is one of the most important tools in advertising. Now, the first one, we look at attention. So we use advertisement to get the audience's attention. How do you pay attention to this product? There are certain things that I need to use. For example, visuals, bold headlines, as well as catchy slogans. Once I put these on the advert, then I've already caught your attention. And the second thing is to get you interested. How do I make you interested in the product? A good example is we keep the audience interested with details or the benefits of the product. A good example here would be the timeless classic, for example, as we have seen in the picture, the previous picture. Number 3, desire. You make the audience want to buy the product, the service, or the event that is being advertised. An example, the king of breakfast, if we are to look at the previous ones we looked at. And finally, you need to take action. And how do we take action? You buy the product, or you go to their website, you go to their Facebook account, you go to their Twitter account, where you will find more details and most likely be able to make an order or buy that particular product, which is why it's very important for us to understand the ADA principle and how to then apply it on the text.
Okay, so we've got a little exam practice session for you here. So this is what your question would look like. We section C, question 3, and it would say study advertisement and answer the said questions. So let me quickly highlight to you a few important things. Before you start with your questions, I need you to take the time just to analyze what do I see. Now always remember where the headline is. Now the headline is your big bold letters, usually in the middle of your advertisement, but it can also be on top. And the part that's written in small text that we usually will retype for you is called the body text. So be careful if we refer to the headline and a question that you know what to refer to, and the body text will be the small printed part. So if you just have a look there, you would have seen there is a nice little mosquito. So you know by now it's just going to be something about a mosquito.
Let's go back.
Let's go back and see. So always take the moment just to look at your advertisement to pick up if you can have a good idea what it's all about. So you'll see there's a mosquito. It says one mozzie bite can kill. And there's a whole lot of information included there. So without reading everything to you, let's focus on some of the questions that they love asking us on advertisements.
Question number 1 would be, who is the target audience in this advert? So this is asking, to whom is this advert intended for? Who should buy this product? Now, be careful, grade 12s. When we respond to such questions, you cannot say people. You can't just say old people, young people, girls, boys. You must be specific. You must qualify your response. So it could be people who are allergic to mosquitoes, could be people that are afraid of mosquitoes, or people who have malaria in their area, or whatever the case may be, depending on what the advert is about. The key thing is you have to qualify what do you mean by people. What kind of people exactly are you making reference to?
So, and then remember I said to you there's going to be a language question. So here they've given us one. Give a single word which means the same as each here. Now this is actually easy, but we could have asked another question. What does it mean if it's 10 years?
Which could be a decade.
50 years. So what do you call that? So there are so many options available to us, but there will be 2 language questions.
Then the next question is, how does the advertiser show that mosquitoes are dangerous? State 2 points. This type of question would require you to go back to the text and look at the different things that are mentioned in the text, and then you find your answers there. Remember, every response you give must be text-based. So you don't give ideas or answers of things you think maybe. All the answers must be text-based for you to get the right answers. Now let's look at the possible answers.
Right, so as you have said, these might be travelers or tourists or anyone who wants to take precautions against malaria. Can you see how we've qualified exactly who the people are? So we must bring in the fact about the mosquito and why we would want to buy this product.
Exactly. Then the single word could be yearly or annually.
Absolutely.
Only one, you get a tick. Remember, if the question said one word or a single word, you need to give exactly that, a single word. Then the last one would be...
All right, so remember we asked you, how do you know the mosquitoes are dangerous in this advertisement? Now, they weren't specific to refer you to the words or to the picture. So I would suggest do both. Go and see what you can find to show that mosquitoes are dangerous. Now, we had the headline that said mosquitoes can kill. There's a website address that suggests that one bite from a mosquito can kill. They've even included statistics. 200 million cases of malaria are reported every year. We have the words don't become a statistic. And we have the picture of a mosquito.
100%.
It looks quite menacing.
It does. And then we'll look at these questions very briefly, which are other possible questions that you may have. For example, quote 3 consecutive words. Remember what we said about consecutive. It means words after each other. You don't take from one paragraph, one line or whatever. It must literally be on the same line or maybe overlap, but it must be words after each other, right?
Another kind of question that they like to ask is identify 2 visuals. Now be careful. Now you can only refer to the visuals. Now always look at the mark allocation. So in this case it was 2 visuals to show the idea of traveling. Your facts must be completely different from each other. We want 2 very separate ideas here.
That's correct. In a different one, they can maybe add, identify 2 visuals or 1 visual as well as 1 verbal.
Absolutely.
So you need to be aware of that. And then lastly, it says, why does the advertiser include the following information in the advertisement? So what is the importance of the inclusion of? Sometimes it could be the trademark, it could be 100 years in existence, or in this case, they've given us reference to this website address. Think about the possible answers of why an examiner would ask you these questions. And let's look at some of the answers that we have for this specific questions.
So let's quickly go back to the quote one. Now you'll see here, we've included inverted commas. Do you have to include inverted commas? For safety's sake, please do. So please, because remember, you are quoting, you're literally taking words from the text. So if I were you, make sure you've got those inverted commas.
I 100% agree. And then the next one, you was to identify 2 visuals, and that will be a sheep, boat, a car, aeroplane, a route, or a travel path. Any one of the 2, you get the marks.
So, and usually we have contact details or web addresses or telephone numbers or social media handles that are included. And we can ask you why these things are included. And obviously, first one is easy to find more information, but it can also be used to complain or to find an address.
That's true. 100% agree. On the last one, the question was, why does the advertiser include the following information? And the answer is to indicate source of the information used in the body copy of the advert, or better yet, to indicate where the reader could find more information about malaria, which is likely what Liz has explained to us. Then finally, we move to the open-ended question.
Right, so this is a tricky one. It says, do you think that the slogan, caring for you, supports the message of the advertisement? Now, it might only look at 2 marks, which is not enough, but please make sure that you give us enough information. And as Mandisa said, you have to make sure your answer is based in the text. So make sure you explain the slogan to us and how it links up with the message of your advertisement. Now, in this case, the advertiser who is Activio Health means really that they care for us. And that's why they've given us all this information, statistics, and how to educate us about malaria. And that will obviously help us to make sure that no mosquitoes take a bite out of us, make us a statistic. But remember, when you answer the question like this, you have to say you agree or you don't agree, or yes or no. So take your stand and defend your point of view. Focus your answers on the text. So here you have options that is available to you. But so we could have said no. The idea of caring doesn't come across because nowhere do they actually refer to the actual products. We haven't even seen them. The advertiser expects us, the consumer, to go onto the website to go and find products. So how does that show they're caring for us?
Absolutely no care.
No.
Remember, this could also be a combination answer.
Absolutely.
Yes or no.
Just make sure you can show us exactly your point of view and evidence
from the text.
From the text. That's all we need. So let's quickly recap. Remember, we spoke about the purpose of the advertisement. I'm sure you understand advertising techniques by now. The AIDA principle, you know how to answer target audience questions, and I promise you it's going to be there.
I agree.
The link, the visuals with the advertisement, and you've practiced for your exam.
100%. If you've got all of these great homes, now we've got a 10 and a 10. 20 marks out of 80.
It's
we are
so
doing
easy.
so well. It's so easy. Now we move to another favorite question of Liz, which is a cartoon. And what is a cartoon? It is a drawing or series of drawings that usually makes a comment about people, events, or society. It combines pictures and words to send a message in a humorous way. And I know some of you can sit and not and disagree with me that, I don't find it funny, but I promise you there is always something that's meant to make you laugh. There we've got it also. So we've given us a very simple example here, and we are going to look at this. So we see in this cartoon, it's divided into what we call, I'm not going to say it because we have a short activity for you to look at. Now, there's the lady, and she says, reading social media all day is making me grumpy. Why don't you go outside? That must be a voice from an adult or someone we don't know. Then she says, fine. What does she do? Moves outdoor. You will see the change in setting in where she is. And she said, now there's a glare on my screen. And what do you think is funny, or what do you think is happening here? Remember, she was complaining in the house and they said, go outside. What did she do? She went. But is there any change in behavior?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Now,
so there are a lot of features of a cartoon that you must be familiar with. Now, we want to go through a list, so please make sure you know what to look for and what is its effect or its purpose. So the first one is what we call verbal features. In the exam, we can talk about verbal clues, for instance, as well. So this is anything that you have to do with words. So this is your speech bubble, your thought bubbles, your captions, frames, anything that has to do with the words. And this will show us exactly what the characters say or think, and that will help you to figure out what is the message of the cartoon and why something is funny or not. Then we've got visual features, and exam we will probably use the word visual clues. And this is where you look at your characters and you look at their facial expressions, body language, gestures, symbols, background details, anything that tells us exactly what are our characters doing. And once again, together with the words, it will create humor and tell us all what's really happening.
then we've got tone in this case. And the question would be, how do we find tone? Remember, tone is in the voice. And sometimes how we say certain things, that's where the humor can be hidden. Hence, we have what to look for: the humor, satire, irony. Now, remember, grade 12s, irony question is a very important question for you to note. We can have it for paper 1, but we also have it in paper 2. And what does irony mean? We are looking at the opposite of reality. This is what is happening now, and this is what is expected, or this is what we have, but this is what we expect. So you think about expectation versus reality. And that's what we have in terms of tone. What does it do? It expresses the cartoonist attitude, makes the message clear, as well as engages the reader. Finally, we've got a message that is being communicated. The main idea or the lesson that the cartoonist is trying to convey to us. You can think about the previous example that we looked at, but we'll see it just now. What happens, it tells what the cartoon is really about, what the cartoonist wants you to understand out of whatever that they've communicated with you. Which leads us to a very short activity that we are going to give you exactly 3 minutes to complete, and then we'll be right back.
Hello and welcome back. We are busy discussing cartoons and we got you stuck on terminology. Let's see if you know these ones. So the first one, solid line, is obviously a speech bubble. And the next one that looks like a little cloud is obviously a thought bubble. And the third one, did you get that one right? So as you can see, it's not a solid line, it's dotted line, and that's called a whisper bubble. This is when my character will be whispering. And then that's a shout bubble. We call it a jagged speech bubble as well. So if you can't remember, shout bubble will work. And then, obviously, your cartoon is divided into frames. Now, just a reminder, the frames will be numbered. So when we say refer to frame 1, we really mean frame 1. You can't go to other frames. Stick to the frames we are giving you. Okay, well done. Now, please remember, punctuation is key in a cartoon. So always look out for the big, bold words that are emphasized. Most of them will be in capital letters. The moment something's in capital letters, it is emphasized. But be careful. In some cartoons, all the words are in capital letters. Then you can't tell me it's because of it in being capital letter that it's emphasized. So please make sure, look out then for whether it's bold or it's in italics, or whether there are other exclamation marks or question marks or ellipses that are used to emphasize an idea.
100%. So the key thing is, if it's everything is in capital letters, then nothing is special about that. No. But if it's capital and it's bold, it's in a big font, then definitely that's something to look at. But now we are going to be looking at the different visual features. Visual features are divided into two. We've got our facial expression as well as our body language. Here are a few examples of facial expressions that you can think of. One, we've got a sad face over there. And in an exam, they can ask you, how do you know this is sad? And then you should be able to describe the visual features that we can see. For example, the lips are curved downwards. We've got a tear on the face. The eyebrows are slanted, correct. And then maybe we are looking at happy. The lips are curved upwards, right? So your homework, grade 12, is to go back home and be able to describe all these faces that we have over here. For the angry one, we can see there's a grin on the face. He's very angry. We also have one with the tongue out, the crazy face. I've never seen that in an exam, but you never know. You know, the sky is the limit. Now, facial expressions are not limited to just these that we've provided you. There is a pool of them that you can be tested on. What is important for you is the ability to use the right words to explain or to describe what you see on those visual features or visual pictures. Now,
so always remember in the exam, you can't use the phrase facial expression. You have to be very specific. So when we talk about the facial expression, we need to talk about the eyes and the eyebrows working together, and of course the mouth. So what we've done here, we've given you some examples and what it shows. So the moment the eyes are wide open, obviously it shows shock or surprise. When they are narrowed, it will be anger, suspicion. When she's looking away, this might be guilt or shyness or disinterest. The same with the mouth. If the mouth is open wide, it's either shock or surprise. Smiling will be happiness or amusement. And frowning, that will show anger or unhappiness. So make sure in the exam you tell me exactly what the eyes and the eyebrows are doing and what is the mouth doing. Something you have to remember, please, is that you can't write that the mouth and the eyes are wide open. No. It doesn't work that way. It must be wide. So don't make a spelling mistake. It will cost you your marks.
It will definitely cost you your marks. So it's not wild, but it is wide open. Now, we've got different visual features that we are going to be looking at, and now we are looking at the body language. Remember, we spoke about the facial, and Lee specified that you can't, in an exam, say the facial expression says, be specific as to what exactly in the face is happening. The same rule applies when we deal with body language. Now, here we are looking at the posture, we are looking at the gestures, as well as we are looking at the movement that is there. These are examples of how you would explain the following body language representation in an exam. There, we've got a confused person, got a disappointed person with arms folded. We've got disgusted. We have a shy. We can see that their arms are lifted up. Look at the legs, the shape of the legs. We've got angry. We have happy. These are different examples, but what's key is you should be able to put it in words and explain exactly what is happening over here. And these are some of the examples that we have.
No, absolutely. So again, as she said, make sure you focus on what the hands are doing, what are the body doing, and what are the feet doing, and tell us exactly what you see. So again, we've got some examples for you here. So the moment somebody crosses their arms, that shows off, closed off attitude. They're not interested, right? But if you're raising their hands, there's excitement or surprise. Somebody standing tall is obviously confidence and power.
Exactly.
But if you're turning away, that's rejection or disinterest. So make sure you focus on the detail first.
That's right. Then we've got general body movement as well. So we could say someone is leaning forward. And if you're leaning forward, it's likely because you're curious, you're interested, you want to hear what's on the other end. Or walking away. Walking away, you're avoiding or you're ending a situation, which is exactly what we have over here, right? Then we've got other cartoon features that we'll be looking at.
So we've got humor, satire, and irony. Please make sure you are able to recognize in an exam. As she said, make sure that you explain irony to us. And what is that key word that you have to include? But. But.
Yet.
Very, very important. So always make a note. Irony must have that conjunction that's needed. So if you look at it, remember our girl that went outside for the message? Let's quickly look. The whole idea is obviously that she had to go outside and enjoy the outdoors. But she's taking her laptop with her and obviously showing us that she can't work outside because there's a glare. Now, the cartoonist is trying to show us that young people are too attached to technology. They can't seem to be able to relax.
Not at all. And it shows us that she didn't get the message from the mom. When mom said go outside, she didn't necessarily mean go outside and continue playing on the phone. It meant go outside and enjoy the fresh air, enjoy the outdoor, do what people should be doing outdoor. So that is what was supposed to make us laugh. And I hope you did laugh as much as it made us laugh about it. So make sure you're able to find the humor in the adverts. Now again, we have an exam practice, which is going to be quite brief and to the point. Go ahead.
Okay, so once again, the same thing you did with the advertisement. Before you start on the questions, have a quick look on what's happening in your cartoon. So we've got 6 frames, and you'll see in the first one, nobody is speaking, but you'll see Jeremy, his name is Jeremy, he's obviously looking for something in his pocket. And look at frame number 2. So here he screams, he's got one hand out, mouth is big, hand over the eyes, there's really something happening here. Frame 3, he says, my driver's license was in the jeans you just watched. And then mom says, maybe you should have emptied the pockets before you put them in the laundry. And then absolute silence in the frame 5. My mom is starting to have trouble taking responsibility for my actions. It's probably an aging thing. Right.
Interesting that Jeremy sees nothing wrong with what he did.
Absolutely.
It's just the mom.
It's mom's fault, eh? It's always the mom's fault, isn't it? Always. So let's look at the kind of questions that they might ask you. So,
What evidence is there that Jeremy is indoors? But before we ask that question, remember the instruction 4.1 says refer to frame 1. So what it means is whatever response you have must solely be based on what we see in frame 1. And this is the possible.
yeah, so it only counted 1 mark, so it was quite easy to get.
100%, yeah. So what evidence is there that Jeremy is indoors? Another question would be, what is the setting of frame 1? So you should be able to say it's in the bedroom, it's in the kitchen, it's in the office, home office, depending on the visuals that we see in there. And in this case, we can easily say it's indoors because of these things that are visible to us. 4.2.
So in this question, we wanted to know, why is the word ga written in bold font? Now, you know, cartoonists can't put sound inside a cartoon, so they will use other ways to make you aware of a sound.
100%.
And this is obviously to show us that Jeremy is shouting, he's annoyed, or he's horrified. So, and that word is then emphasized because it is in bold.
I agree. Then number 3, refer to frame 3. Now we are moving to the next frame. How does Jeremy express his frustration? Refer to 1 verbal and 1 visual clue in your answer. So this question is quite specific and direct. You have to focus your answers on frame number 3. But not only that, you need to look at the visuals. These are things that these are pictures. You also need to look at the verbal. These are words spoken, which are likely going to be found in a frame or words written next to the character. And the possible response here is that verbal, he tells his mother that he has ruined his driver's license, or he uses an exclamation mark. This shows that he's raising his voice. This is a representation of verbal, but I'll talk to you about this now. Now, on visual, this is the possible response. He's pointing at the crumbed up paper in his hands, and his eyes are wide open from shock. His mouth is wide open from disbelief. Now, both these responses are making a representation for the verbal as well as the visual. But, grade 12s, remember, the question does not say specify which of your responses is visual or verbal. And between you and me, I will say just write the answer, don't specify, because there's a danger in specifying. Suppose you write visual, then you talk about exclamation, or vice versa, then you lose a mark. So the safest thing to do is just to present your response, and then as long as it answers the question, you will get credited for that response. Moving on to the next one.
So in this case, it refers us to frame 4, and they're giving us a sentence. Maybe you should have emptied the pockets before you put them in the laundry. Identify the parts of speech for each of the underlined words. So that's your language question. And this is where you had to identify parts of speech. Remember, not figures of speech, parts of speech.
2 different things.
Two different things. Right, next one. So, and this one is an interesting one. So now they're focusing on the mother's body language in frame 4 in contrast to her body language in frame 3. Now, in this case, you have to be careful. You have to compare the same things with each other. So you have to compare apples with apples. In other words, we have to talk about her eyes. If her eyes are closed in the one, open in the other one, we have to say that. For in this case, in frame 4, her mouth is wide open. But in frame 3, her mouth was closed. Can you see that I show the contrast on the same thing? In frame 3, she's leaning towards Jeremy, and in frame 4, she has turned her back on him. So be very specific when you make a contrast to show us what happens in the one frame, what happens in the next frame, and show that contrast very clearly.
Exactly that. And then we move to the last question, which is our open-ended question. Do you think the cartoonist succeeds in creating humor in this cartoon? Now, for you to be able to answer this question, one, you need to identify where humor was or where humor was intended. Because I know you probably think it wasn't funny, but were you able to pick up where it was supposed to be funny? Once you have that, then you should be able to respond to the question. Now, the possible one is, it is humorous that Jeremy is angry with his mom and shouts at her while he is the one who should have kept his driver's license safe. He's trying to make his mother feel guilty, but his trick is not working. So perhaps that could have been something that made you laugh, but someone else can look at this and think it's actually not funny. But why? It is not funny that Jeremy blames his mother for his carelessness and wants her to take responsibility. It is not humorous that Jeremy's friend believes that his mother's age is the reason. But now I want you to note the difference between the two responses. Both of the responses are making mention of Jeremy taking accountability. But then the next point will focus on why this is found to be funny or why it is not funny. So the key thing, you must be able to identify where humor is placed, because out of that we can then determine whether it's funny or not. Someone else can better it says Jeremy should be the one that is perhaps taking charge of his things and not blame an elderly person for some of his mistakes, or vice versa. And remember, grade 12 combination answers, and I will leave it at that for now. Which then takes us to the next part.
Okay, so just to recap quickly, you know what a cartoon is by now. I'm sure you understand the difference between a verbal and visual features, the tone and the message. And please remember to look at those common phrases that are used in cartoons often. And yeah, good luck.
Good luck. And question 5, and this is exactly how you feel about it. I feel almost exactly the same. One of the most, as you say, difficult questions, but it's not really.
No.
And we'll put this to test at the end of the lesson.
Absolutely. So there's quite a number of things that always come up in an exam paper for question 5. And if you know this, then it's easy to focus on. So here's almost like a shopping list of things that will be asked, most probably. You will be asked to identify deliberate errors that have been made, parts of speech you need to identify, vocabulary. There's tag questions, there's reported speech, you've got tense questions, and active and passive. Yes, there are many other things that they can ask as well, but these are the
Key ones.
the key ones that usually pop up.
And these are some of the other shopping lists that you need to consider when looking at the deliberate errors, which is the first 4 questions of question 5. And I know you always say, but there is no error, man. I promise you, there definitely is an error in that. And these are some of the things that you can look for. 1, we've got spelling error. We've got an apostrophe error. You'd find that they've put the apostrophe where it's not supposed to be positioned. So we look at, in this case, apostrophe, remember, is punctuation, but we are not looking for comma errors or full stop errors. But the examiner can put a hyphen or can use punctuation as a hyphen to combine 2 or more words. You'll see that now. We've got a concord. Does the object and the verb agree? We also look at words that are often confused. You think of words such as there, they are. Prepositions, as well as different tenses. So this is what we need to look out for when we did with this question. Now,
so as she said, your first 3 questions will be deliberate errors that you need to identify. Now you only have to write down the right word. So you have to correct it and write it down first. Now the best way to do is to actually read it aloud in your head. And that's how you will pick up where the error is. So let's run through them. Number A says, just like the people in most countries, South Africans love music. Did you get it? Countries, yes. Country has been spelled incorrectly. It should be IES. So there's our spelling error. South Africa is home to many award-winning artists. Now, be careful. South Africa doesn't have a hyphen. Sometimes I find learners write South Africa with a hyphen. And in this case, it wasn't that one. We wanted award-winning had to have the hyphen. Added to the list are the youth choir, and that is, of course, that's your Concord area there. And the last one, the performances on the show have made them a global sensation, and I'm sure you've recognized it immediately. And that's that word's often confused, and it should have been there. Their. Well done.
Well done. Now we are looking at the different parts of speech. I always say that this you learned from grade 3, and you know this from the back of your head. Now we've been given exactly 8 of them, which is a noun, a verb, pronoun, adjective, adverb, conjunction, preposition, and article. And just a bit of a tip. Remember, we've got a verb, a noun. There are words that modify a verb, the doing word, and we call those adverbs. Nouns are modified by adjectives. We'll look into that at a later stage. Now, parts of speech are the basic building blocks of language. They are the different types of words we use to form different sentences. And each part of a speech has a special job that we have. And this is exactly what is explained in the template that we have here. But some of you are probably wondering, why is there only just 8? Isn't there supposed to be the 9th one? And I want you to take a quick guess of what the next one is going to be. I'm sure you have guessed it right, grade 12s. Wow. And the correct one is interjection, and that's exactly what it does. An interjection example is the word wow, as seen here. So these are 9 parts of speech that you need to remember and take with you to the exam, because the examiner can ask you any question based on them.
Okay, so on vocabulary, you have to know the difference between synonyms, antonyms, homonyms, and homophones. Now, remember, you will be required to use the word in a sentence of your own with regard to homonyms and homophones, and or supply as with a synonym or an antonym in another sentence. So please make sure you know the difference. Homonyms sound the same, look the same, but got different meanings. Where homophones, your phone, and on a phone you don't always know what the spelling is, right? So they sound the same, spelling is different and different meaning.
Good. Then we've got our tag questions. Tag questions, when you think about it, remember, if the sentence is in the positive, the tag needs to be in the negative, and vice versa. So in the case here, I am a student. If you think about it, the negative of this would be I am not a student. Now, the tag question would be I am a student, aren't I? Or am I not, if you want to write it in full. The key thing is, grade 12s, if you choose to write your tags in contractions, make sure that your apostrophe is placed at the right place. Now, your apostrophe needs to be between the N and the T. Why? Because we have omitted the word O. We've omitted is it O? Yes. We've omitted the word O in the sentence. And the best thing to do, you make sure that you put your apostrophe at the right place, etc., etc. We'll then move over to the next one. But please do take a picture of this, remember this, so that you are able to revise it.
Right, and then reported speech, you'll definitely get one of these. Now, always remember, when you do reported speech, this is when we move one step into the past. And you have to be so careful, because there are certain things that you have to look at. You have to look at your pronouns, and you have to change your verb. And then there's sometimes some time words that you have to change as well. But I'm sure, they're grade 12. I'm sure they know them. But let's quickly show you an example, what it would look like in the exam.
So here's a sentence. It says, I'm very happy to see the choir's success, said Ngongwane. Now, remember, Liz has mentioned quite a number of things that we need to do in response to this question, and it's 3 marks. So we expect 3 things to happen here. Firstly, I recommend that you start the sentence with the person who had said these words. In this case, we will say, Ngongwane said that. Now, notice I is going to change, because it's no longer I that is speaking. We are now speaking in reported speech and replace it with the pronoun she. We also made mention of the verb tense. But remember, it should not change the entire sentence tense. In the case, it's going to be, it said, I am very happy. But now it's going to be, Ngongwana said that she was, which is where our next mark is coming, very happy to see the choir's success. What have we done here? We removed the inverted commas and we ended our sentence with a full stop, which is going to be our third mark, our language mark. Once you do this, grade 12s, then you've got your full 3 marks for this question. We'll look at the next one now.
Okay, so in this case, it says he said, and we're going to have that, he. I will turn to he in this case. Turned, we have to go from the past tense to the past perfect tense, and that's why we've added had turned. And as she said, please remember, all punctuation marks are removed except for that nice full stop at the end of a sentence. And make sure we can see it clearly, because if we can't see it, we can't credit.
Then you lose the language mark, and we don't want that. So this notes the change of pronouns, verb tense, as well as punctuation. Then we move over to tenses.
So the tenses can be asked in quite a number of ways. They can ask you to change a tense from the present tense to the future tense. Or they can be very specific to say to you, change this tense for me to the past continuous tense. You have to know all 9 of them and make absolutely sure you're able to recognize them and know exactly what they look like.
100%. And then we move to active and passive voice. Now this, grade 12s, you should know, and there's a formula that we use.
Yes.
Now think about it. Every sentence or an active sentence will have a subject, a verb, and an object. Now when we change the sentence from the active to the passive, the roles change. The subject takes this position of an object takes the position of an object. In this case, the dog chased the cat. When we change it into the passive voice, it's going to be the cat was chased by the dog. So we've changed roles. You notice what happens to, you will see it. You'll notice what happens to the verb. We move it into the past, but remember, auxiliary verb must still maintain the main idea, which is that particular tense that was presented. If it's in the present, make sure that when you change it into passive, it still maintains the present tense, vice versa.
And you know, the problem is what you have to be careful for grade 12 is they can ask you to change it from active to passive, but they can also ask it to change from passive to active. So be careful when you practice these to make sure you can do both ways.
100%. As you can see in the example here, grade 12s, you're more than welcome to take a short of it or have this in your records. And then we can recap question 5.
Remember, you're going to look at those deliberate errors that they're going to give you at the beginning of question 5. Remember to look at your parts of speech. Understand the difference between all your homonyms and homophones and synonyms and antonyms, question tags, reported speech, how to do your tenses, and then obviously active and passive voice.
Exactly that. And now, grade 12s, as you know, what would a good lesson be without homework? This is our homework. Please take a scan, work it out. This will form part of your revision. But remember, grade 12s, this is not going to be a part of the exam. The main thing that you need to remember is the skill to respond to the different questions. And once you have mastered that, then you have mastered the language. We can definitely think about those distinctions at the end of the year, right?
Absolutely.
So this is the homework. For those of you who are not able to scan, and
we've come to the end of our lesson today. So we focus on so many things: comprehension, summary, advertisement, cartoon, and language. And we're sure that you're going to get your 80 out of 80. And we just want to remind you of the next lesson that's coming up that you can't miss out on,
which is going to be on the 2nd of September 2025, which will it's going to be revision for paper 2. And from us, grade 12s, good luck and all the best for the exams.
Thank you so much and all of the best.